Imagine this. I'm 21 years old, just got to Germany, and I'm needing to walk alone at night from place to place to meet my friends for dinner. And it's pitch black, and I got to walk 10 minutes, and it's scaring the shit out of me. Um, 2 years later, can take a breath and breathe and realize, okay, I guess this is really what people do here, and this is okay. Um, I didn't know. I didn't know a life of being able to walk at night. Howdy und servus, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of The Pod Abroad. My name is Paulina de los Santos, and I'm an American who has lived in Munich, Germany for the last 9 years. On this podcast, I also have conversations with several of my international friends who are also based here in Munich, and we share our lived experiences and stories, cultural differences here as well. So if it's your first time, thanks a lot for listening in and consider subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. Today, I wanted to speak all about reasons why I wouldn't want to move back to Texas. I am originally from Texas. For context, I moved to Germany in 2016 when I was 21 years old. I just turned 30 2 months ago, and yesterday, August 31st, I celebrated 9 years since I first entered this country. I have a stamp in my old passport that says August 31st, 2016, so it's been a whole 9 years. And with that, of course, every year comes reflection, brings reflection, and just really looking back and seeing all the things that I've enjoyed here, reasons why I don't think I would want to go back. And I think it's kind of even scary saying that out loud because for several years I was extremely indifferent, or I guess, is that benevolent? That I didn't know. People asking me back home, like, oh, well, like, would you ever move back? Would you ever move back? And quite honestly, I would always say, like, I don't know, possibly, like, if it felt right. And I mean, I'll never say never. My family and really good friends still live in Texas. I have two brothers, my dad, my 94-year-old grandpa and grandma are there. There's a lot of beautiful things where I'm from. And I want to preface this episode and also saying that this is in no way meant to shit on where I'm from. I guess I'm just kind of going to get real with the feelings that I am confronted with in my brain on a daily. And I think it's nice to kind of share that and share what's on my heart. I think it was last week that there was a shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the US, in a Catholic church where 2 children were killed and several injured. And in my time here in Germany, many people have asked me throughout the many shootings that have happened in the US, people ask me here like, oh, have you become desensitized though? Because like, oh, you must be kind of used to it. And my answer is always, no, it hurts every time. And every time something like this happens, I mean, we go through circles, I guess, in our heads. And people in the US say thoughts and prayers, of course, which we all know is inevitably not enough. We go through this vicious cycle of wanting gun control, wanting better for our country. Then there's fights against both parties, and nothing ends up changing. I mean, Sandy Hook Elementary School, the Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida, several shootings in between. Like, we haven't changed, and I quite frankly don't see us changing, though I so deeply wish we could. So those are just some of the thoughts I had, and I wanted to share the story that I wrote back in May 2023. So a little over 2 years ago. And I think that this story is very, very relevant for this episode now. So mind you, I was 2 years younger, and this was just, a story that I had posted online with like my deepest, sincerest thoughts. It goes, the last weeks have been particularly hard on me. Reading the news on my home state of Texas at this point is just disheartening and exhausting. There was a shooting near Conroe, where my friend Ashley lives. The man was found in Cut and Shoot. Can you believe that's the name of a town? There was yet another shooting at a mall in Allen, a city where my aunt lives. In my home region of the Rio Grande Valley, a man ran over and killed 8 people in Brownsville. These people were migrants seeking a better life, most likely a safer life. When will it stop? It feels like nowhere is safe. Growing up in Texas, I was acutely aware of the violence around me, though it didn't feel nearly close to the magnitude of what it is today. I'm not sure I want to have children one day, though I often do sympathize for people doing so right now in Texas, in a country/state where there is no minimum wage for maternity leave, where 6 weeks of paid maternity leave is a dream, and off goes the newborn to a daycare because the mom has to work to live. You know, I'd never heard of paternity leave until I was 22 years old and in my first working student position in Germany. I was stunned and still found it amusing that it had never crossed my mind in the US that maybe, just maybe, a father or both parents should be involved in raising their child. What a concept. Parents in the US have to worry about their children in ways that here in Germany, one never fathoms. Parents in Texas are equipping their children with bulletproof panels in their backpacks. Their children are going through active shooter drills starting in elementary school. In Germany, children are walking to school alone, playing on the playground alone. The US is feeling like a bad dream, though it's not a dream. And this reality is what the country has become. How is it that people can honestly believe that they're living in the greatest country on earth? The amount of brainwashing is astonishing, and quite frankly, I feel really sorry for these people. It's incredibly sad that they have not accepted the state of their environment as normal. They have not only accepted the state of their environment as normal, but think that this is as best as it gets. It's a level of delusion and ignorance that is oddly understandable. Ignorance is indeed bliss, and it's so easy just to accept things when that's the standard mindset surrounding you. I have to humble myself and remember that I was once the girl who protested outside of an abortion clinic when I was 15 one Saturday morning. My Catholic church had told me to do it for the babies and that there would be lunch provided. That was enough for me, and I'm sure in that moment I genuinely thought I was doing good. I've come so far. I have a necklace in the shape of Texas that I've worn almost every day the last several years. A symbol of my pride for where I'm from. A symbol for the love I have for my home and the people there. For the first time, this past week I felt an ugly feeling while putting it on. I don't know what to make of that feeling, but I'm still wearing it. I often feel guilt for leaving and never moving back to do anything about it. Who am I just to bitch from afar? This year, I was proud to have gathered $2,500 in donations from my former high school classmates to provide scholarships to 4 students. $625 isn't much in a country where higher education is a business out to suck you dry, though perhaps the small things help too. I so deeply wish that students could pursue higher education without going into mass amounts of debt. In moments of deep anger towards my home state, I remember the great people who are there actively trying to make it better for so many. My younger brother, who is currently in a firefighting academy right now, shout out Kiko, 2 years later, he's a firefighter. Anyway, he wants a life of doing good and helping those in need. Osmara is working for Texas Rising, fighting for inclusivity, equality, and social justice. Cody is becoming a lawyer, wanting to defend those in need. Luis, being a nurse, having worked through COVID and still working crazy hours every week, these people and many others inspire me and are the reason why I haven't completely given up hope. There is still so much good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you have to work a life-changing job to do good. Spread life-changing energy. We can all spread kindness every day by the people who we interact with. Don't be a dick. And then I wrote, though Germany desperately needs this message. They say when all said and done, when we're gone, people aren't going to remember what we accomplished, rather how we treated them. So my wish for Texas is that we sprinkle good energy wherever we go and don't give up the good fight. Remember that y'all means all, and don't lose hope. As exhausting as this may be, I somehow haven't lost hope. And that was written in 2023, 2 years ago. So I wanted to share that here and kind of reflect on those sentiments after 9 years of living in Germany. I've always said that when I think of my home state of Texas, I think of a parent's relationship with their teenage son or daughter, child, that is complicated, very complicated. And that I guess when your son or daughter deeply hurts you, you don't just give up on them. Like, you're disappointed, but you still love them. And that's a bit how I feel towards where I'm from. I am constantly being disappointed, and yet I still deeply love where I'm from. So it is conflicting. And I think a lot of people who leave their home countries or states that feel problematic to them can also relate with this feeling of longing for the beautiful people and culture that you know, but the confliction that also relates to government and everything in between. You know what I mean? So with all that being said, reasons why I don't want to move back to Texas. Starting off, let's get into lifestyle and quality of life in general. First off, I wanted to say public transport and walkability. That in Munich, where I'm currently living in Germany, you can rely on trams, trains, bikes. Texas is very car dependent, which means traffic, higher costs. If I moved back to Texas, I would have no choice but to buy a vehicle, which would be a massive expense. And interestingly enough, I lived like the first 5 years of Germany, like here in Germany, without a car, and I felt so free. One would think like in the US, if you're thinking kind of linearly, like in the cities that we have in Texas, one would think like life without a car is just is limiting, because it is in Texas, but that's not how it is everywhere else. In cities in Europe that have great public transportation, life without a car can be very, very liberating and freeing, not having to spend several hours a day commuting through traffic. Maybe you spend several hours on public transport instead, but at least you can read a book, and it's just a bit more relaxed in that sense and just different. So very much appreciate that. Very much appreciate the walkability of where I'm living in Germany. And you just don't get that where I am from. So that would be very, very hard. The first time I took my boyfriend to visit my home state, he had never been to the US before. Background is that he is German, but grew up in South Africa. So he's going to Texas, and he can relate a lot actually, because where he grew up in Stellenbosch near Cape Town, it's also car dominant. He said, though, after living many years in Germany now, like when he went to Texas and came back 2 weeks later, he was like, I missed walking. And that's kind of the truth. Like, we don't walk nearly as much in a day-to-day in Texas life. And I would deeply miss that. That'd be a big reason like why I wouldn't want to move back, because I greatly value my active lifestyle. In Munich, healthcare costs, the healthcare system in the US, super, super complicated. Germany has a universal healthcare system. Universal means that it's mandatory for everybody to be covered here. It does not mean that it's free. It's not free. You're forced to pay for it, but it's for the best and something that I am greatly appreciative of. You don't get price gouged in Germany the way you do in the US through private hospitals and with your private insurers. It makes me so mad how people don't find out like what their bill is until they've already been charged and you have to ask for an itemized list and you see that like they're adding all these expenses. It's just insane. Or when you look at the costs of essential medicines, you just kind of can't believe that that's the reality, and it is in the US, and it's disheartening. I think like the struggle of healthcare is something that like I could hope majority of Americans can agree, regardless of which political side you lean, is like that healthcare is a big mess. Like the system in the US, which is of course interesting because I've always said like we have some of the sharpest, brightest, most intelligent minds as well that go to study and become doctors in the US, some of the best in the world, best of the world surgeons and care, but for the people that can afford it. So that's a big difference. Something, yeah, that I wouldn't be happy with. Of course, all of this, like take all this with a grain of salt. I might move back to Texas one day. I don't know. But just something that I would deeply consider. Um, Another thing is safety, of course. Um, I know better now. Growing up in Texas, I don't think I was necessarily concerned because I didn't know. You don't know like your true situation until you leave it. Um, Imagine this. I'm 21 years old, just got to Germany, and I'm needing to walk alone at night from place to place to meet my friends for dinner. And it's pitch black, and I got to walk 10 minutes, and it's scaring the shit out of me. Um, 2 years later, can take a breath and breathe and realize, okay, I guess this is really what people do here, and this is okay. Um, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know a life of being able to walk at night. Um, and that is so freeing and such a beautiful thing. Um, I grew up in South Texas near the Mexican border. For sure, there are safety concerns that nobody would ever think of here in Munich. Um, yeah, and gun violence in general. I don't worry about gun violence in Munich. When I go back to Texas, I'm a little sometimes on edge. Um, One cannot live in fear. I understand that. And to my friends that may be watching this from Texas, like, um, yeah, I'm not saying any of this to like to offend anyone. Of just saying that like I mean I know that's y'all's reality of just like it being in the back of your head and it's not going to stop you from going out. It can't, right? Nevertheless, because I've lived in a place now where we don't ever think of this, when I go back, like I'm like, wow, oh yeah, that's a possibility. I probably shouldn't honk at the person with road rage on the highway because it could be that they have a gun and they're gonna point it at me. That's not unheard of. So little things like that, um, yeah, bother me and would be a reason like why I wouldn't want to go back. Everyone knows Texas, I guess, around the world to be like a gun-toting state. Um, yeah, it's not my vibe. Definitely not something that like I align with. I think I want to be very clear that like I don't support, I guess, taking everyone's guns away and like banning guns, but like there has to be some additional measures for people to legally obtain guns. I don't think that people need automatic like assault rifles. Like for what? For what? If you were to ask a German, y'all, like For them, it just doesn't make sense. And that's so refreshing. Like when I first moved to Germany, I'm just like, oh yeah, like this sucks about Texas, like something that would be probably really taboo to say amongst peers where I'm from. And here they're just like, yeah, that's crazy. So you feel validated, man. Like coming to Germany and thinking what I think. Yeah, being a Democrat, left leaning, and that's just kind of normal here in Germany. You don't feel you don't feel like a nut, and that's a nice feeling of solidarity. Career and finances. So, salaries and cost of living. People have also asked, like, oh, well, couldn't you make much more money in Texas, like working at a big corporate? Yeah, sure, I could, but everything's relative, right? So, one would need a car, like I said. Rents are also crazy high. Some employers like don't have insurance packages with your job, so you'd have to purchase that on top. Um, yeah, there's a lot of expenses. So I've always told people, yeah, the salaries are higher because you need them. You need the money. If you're in Austin or like living in Dallas or Houston, kind of necessary now. Like grocery prices are skyrocketing and all of that. So although salaries in general are lower in Germany versus my home state, everything is relative. And at the end of the day, I could also be saving just as much or more living here versus having a higher salary with a higher cost of living in Texas. Germany's social safety net, something that I greatly, greatly appreciate. Um, Germany has unemployment benefits, job protections, maternity, paternity leave, and all those things are far stronger than what is established or not established in the state of Texas. Something that I do value for sure. Work-life balance in general also. Germany enforces stronger labor protections from a federal level as well. More vacation days, like they have a national like mandatory minimum, which I believe is 21 days a year. Shorter working hours compared to most jobs in Texas as well. I mean, this is a generalization, but in Texas, people are also paid like on salary. So sometimes if you have overtime, that doesn't factor into your pay. Whereas like at many big corporates here in Munich, if you're not at an executive or higher level, you're tracking your hours, which is something I think is very, very cool. Um, Moving on, political climate in general. Texas has more conservative policies against women's rights, immigration, climate change, gun laws, LGBTQ plus laws that I just am not in alignment with in any way, shape, or form. And that's something that deeply bothers me. When I think about this, I think, of course, like maybe one doesn't feel that on a day-to-day basis, like the actions of your state government. But more and more, like it is becoming apparent to people. Like, I think anyone like can anyone in Munich could agree that some of the legislation that Texas has passed like is so barbaric, outdated, and there's just so many things. Like the Texas government consistently lets me down. I think the last few weeks, I'm like in my whole world of reading the news, and I'm sure like any German watching like maybe not be like might not be aware. But there is a lot of gerrymandering happening right now in Texas, and it passed because they're trying to get more seats from Texas. And gerrymandering means that they're redistributing voting districts within Texas to benefit Republicans right now. So because of that, Texas Democrats left the state so that the bill wouldn't pass. And nevertheless, it did when they had to return. It was just very complicated and very sad to see the desperate measures that Texas politicians are taking in order to still remain in power and to like please the president. just playing dirty. And it's just something so sad. Sometimes I'm just like wondering with the Germans, like, what is wrong? Like, how can they not see the harm that they're doing on their own people? Nevertheless, it persists, and it's just something that like I get exhausted by. Um, I realize, like I said, reading the news and everything, like I'm only going to see the worst of it in Texas. There are so many incredible people fighting hard for Texans' rights on a daily, and I have nothing but respect for them. Um, Nevertheless, it's just yeah, it's very sad reading all these new tidbits of information about what's happening in Texas and yeah. I mean, at the same time I could say of course like politics in Germany like um aren't the best right now with the rise of the AfD, the AfD party. Um that's like extreme right wingers. So, yeah. Oof. Politics in general, right? Super painful when I think about Texas. Some more practical things moving on is the weather. So it's not going to get any better. It really won't. Like in Munich, we have four seasons that we can very clearly distinguish by for the most part. Except it's been raining this past summer, so don't know about that. But in Texas, we kind of just have two seasons, hot and hotter. And like I said, with the rise of climate change, like the intensity and frequency of catastrophic events will also, yeah, increase. And as yeah, the weather will get hotter. It's just like not going to get any better, and that's the reality, the dark reality. Also, I'm like reflecting on this summer in general and the flooding that happened in Texas, that took the lives of so many at the summer camp, Camp Mystic. I was in Texas back in June when that happened as well, and just devastating. And one begins to wonder like how can we better prepare ourselves for these inevitable events that will return. And that does go down to policy and political spending and like there were just so many things that went wrong. That I saw videos online of city officials from that area in Texas like saying we don't want handouts from Biden, like when they had been identified as a flood zone and wanted to fund sirens, things like that just make sense. During the whole incidents, people were saying online, like, don't make this political. It's a tragedy. This is so sad. Now it's not the time to talk about politics. Two things can be right at the same time. It can be extremely tragic and political. And I think we often I go back to politics knowing that nothing changes with hopes and prayers, like hope and prayer. Um, that's a sad reality, right? Hope and prayer is nothing without action and legislation. And sometimes, yeah, that's just so fleeting. Like I don't hold so much hope when Texas repeatedly votes against things that could be helping communities. Geography in general. I think it would be hard to be in one place for so long. I know Texas is not far from like Central America, from Mexico, of course. And the US is a country of great diversity as well. But when it comes to like deep cultural diversity, I much prefer right now living in Munich, being able to go to France, Spain, Italy, Switzerland, Netherlands, and it all not being so far from me. I think it's so incredible getting to learn about different cultures I think that would be very hard to feel a little bit more isolated for international travel, um, being in Texas. Just a small thing. I mean, of course, like it's a luxury for me to and a privilege to be able to experience all of these very different cultures around me right now in Munich. That is not a given. I didn't leave my home state of Texas until I was 18 years old for the first time internationally when I went to Paris with my university, Texas A&M, and that kind of opened the doors and like opened my eyes to see a little bit, yeah, a little bit more of our world. And leaving the state is a massive expense, even for middle class families, to be able to go on vacations out of state, much less internationally. Like that's just also another, yeah, massive expense and not incredibly common, I would say, from a middle class family. Reasons why I would want to go back. I mean, my family's there and it's still my home regardless. So I think that's like, I finished up what I wanted to say about reasons why I wouldn't move back. And when I was thinking about what to say in this episode, I was really reflecting on all the things that I'm so grateful for here in Munich. And I will post an episode all about like reasons why I think that Munich is the best city in Germany. Nevertheless, oof, it's hard, right? Like looking back and thinking like, why wouldn't I go back to my home state? And for many people in Germany, maybe a few years ago, not now, they probably like a lot of them wondered like, well, why aren't you going back to the US? Like, oh, I would kill to go to the US. The US is so cool. Y'all, I don't think we have that reputation anymore. A lot has happened in the 9 years that I have been here. People aren't craving the American dream propaganda that the US is still trying to sell. It's just a different time. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful for my life here. I think every year I'm probably presented with the question in my head of should I go back? What does my life look like the next 5 years? And like I said, for many years, I was extremely indifferent. And now I am becoming more and more confident with seeing the next few years of my life, my long-term life here. Oh, it also makes me nervous saying that, right? Like nothing in life has to be permanent. But I really prefer the life that I have built here right now versus where I'm from. And that hurts. I think it really hurts. It's like something bittersweet, something beautiful because I have built community here, built some roots. Nevertheless, like Texas will always be home as well. And when I go home, I have a lot of reflection as well. Have so much respect for a lot of things there too. I get to see friends that I grew up with that fill my cup with joy and gratitude and love. So it's a complicated thing, you know? I never want to say that I'll never, ever, ever go back, but for the meantime, right now in September 2025, I can say that I'm happy here with my life in Munich, and I really love it here. Who would have known that 21-year-old Paulina, who was coming here for a master's program that was supposed to be 2 years, would end up saying 9. I think that's insane. Next year, it'll be a whole decade. I have lived more of my adult life here in Munich, Germany, than I have in my home state of Texas. That's crazy to think. And I'm better for it. I have been put through the ringer through bureaucracy and having to make new friends with people coming and going and challenges, finding jobs, everything in between. learning the language, and the journey still goes on. So I think choosing a life of being an immigrant and living in a foreign country doesn't just come with positives. I also made a video a few weeks ago saying like reasons why you should move to Germany, and only said the positive things, though natürlich, like there is, of course, so many challenges that come with life of living abroad. But for the most part, I am, yeah, very happy here and grateful. So yeah, I will end the episode there. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any perspective, comments, questions, feel free to leave them down below. I would love to see them. And yeah, thanks a lot. Until next time. The Pod Abroad's video, audio, and music is produced and edited by Tim Teherne. Make sure to give us a follow and leave a comment if you like this episode.